Okay, today what I wanted to talk about was our IMS gateway programs, the programs that send out the listings for our clients and it's a really powerful program. A lot of people I don't think get to the main features of the program. So I want to show as much as I can to give you guys a little bit of a uh, lesson on how to utilize the system. So what I'm going to do is I always use the Las Vegas market. So instead, I'm going to use the Indianapolis market today just to kind of get a different picture to look at. So what I did is I opened up one of the agents databases in Indianapolis. I'm looking at a recent lead that they took, Cindy Cash. It hasn't been contacted. And if we look at the notes, under all notes here, we can see how this lead progressed. So the lead came in on March 8th. The initial emails and text messages went out, and then it's just been no contact with the client since. So what happens with this type of a lead? So first of all, let's show, if we scroll down, we can see that the suggest, the gateway, the market update, sold property updates, and the follow-up plan. So when I click on the follow-up plan and we look at what happened, because this lead came in at the beginning of March, I'll hit the disable. I want to see what actually happened. So I'm gonna click the button, and it's gonna, if we scroll down, we can see that the first email went out to the client on March 10th. The first text went out on March 10th. The second email went out on March 11th. And then the first suggest message automatically went out on March 11th at 11:30 a.m. Now, this suggest message is the one that's tied to the auto suggest program, but it basically looks at all the properties that the client has clicked on when they were searching on our website, and it creates an algorithm to determine, okay, this client may like these types of properties. It creates a profile for that client. In the background, we don't see it, we don't know what it's doing, but the system in the background is determining what kind of properties that the client likes. And then finally, it sent out the second text message, okay? So after all 5 of these 48-hour follow-up plan messages started, we know that the suggest program started on March 11th. So let's talk a little bit about the suggest program. The suggest program is going to, every week, is going to send out a little message to the client asking them what they think about properties. There's like 18 different messages. So once a week, it's going to send out. So if we click on that little tab, auto suggest, we can scroll down, and we can see what happened. So we can see on March 11th, it sent out 10 properties to the client. They did not click on any of them. Then the next week, it sent out 4 properties that were similar, did not click on any of them, and so on and so forth until yesterday, April 8th, it sent out 9 properties. So the client, it doesn't appear to be clicking on any properties. They could open the emails that come out, but they're not clicking on any of the properties sent from the auto suggest program. So notice the first one was March 11th. So then if we haven't spoken to the client, the system is going to automatically create what we call the gateway program. Now, the suggest program right here, the only things we can do is turn it off by hitting the disable button over here on the right, or turn it back on. Those are the only things we do, because it's automatic. It's going to determine what the client likes, and it's going to send it. Even if the client doesn't like it, it's going to base its decisions on what the client clicked on. So once we talk to the client and know exactly what we want, we definitely want to come in here and disable this. See how it turned red? That means that we know what the client wants this better than the system does, so we're going to turn this one off. But for now, we haven't spoken with the client, so we're just going to leave it on. And it doesn't matter because we don't know what the client wants yet exactly. So after that first suggest message went out on March 11th, gateway program says, okay, we still haven't heard from the client, so let's create the gateway program. So the gateway program is more customizable by each agent. And that's what I want to talk mostly about today, is what we do once we find out what the client is looking for. Okay, so automatically, if we go down here and we look, you can see all these emails that the system was sending. If we click on the date sent button, it'll sort it from oldest to newest. So I'm going to click on that, and we can see that on the 13th, this was the first time it sent out properties. It automatically figured out what the client wanted and went ahead and started sending things out. So notice that was March 13th. The suggest program was March 11th. right? So so we still haven't reached this client, but the system on its own has created these programs that started sending things out. So if we click on the date sent once, it's going to show us from the oldest. If we click on it again, it'll show us from the most recent, right? What's cool about the Gateway program is we can also see how many were sent each day. So most recently, yesterday, 2 were sent, but the client didn't click on any of them. Back on April 3rd, 1 was sent. The client didn't click on any of them. But on April 2nd, 4 were sent, and the client clicked on one of the properties. So this is a good place to see what has happened with all the emails that we're doing. Now, if you just went and you clicked on the Gateway tab, it's going to sort by the most recent viewed and not by the dates, right? So if you want to see everything that's been sent, you got to click on the column header, date sent, to see the oldest. Click it again to see the most recent, right? So that's how you can see everything. But when by default, it's only going to show you the most recent ones that the client clicked on. So when you first click on Gateway and you scroll down, you can see the most recent, April 3rd, was the most recent look by the client. By look, I mean they clicked on something from the email, okay? Again, guys, if there's any questions as they go along, feel free to, unmute yourself and ask them. But I wanted to show you this to begin with, and then we're going to get into how we do this. So if you look up here at the top, you can see the client has opted in. This is all automatically happened. We haven't done anything to this search yet because we haven't spoken to the client yet. They still haven't been contacted. So the client is actually looking at properties without us even talking to them. So now we got to decide, once we reach the client, what happens. So the first thing I would do is get all the details from the client, figure out what kind of house they want, and so on and so forth. The first thing I'm going to do is write all that down, go into auto suggest, turn it off. Then I'm going to go to Gateway, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, okay, this is the current one we have set up, but I just got some information from the client. So I'm going to go in to the criteria, and we're going to view and edit what they want. Okay. So I'm going to make this bigger so we can see it a little bit better. It's probably still pretty small on you guys' screens, but let's just go over this a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit about what's going on. So in this criteria area, we have all the criteria that the system has automatically set up. So when you see these things where something is entered, or you see a choice made, that means the system has automatically created this, right? Up here, there are several options to see what's gone on with this current search. If I hit view current criteria, it's going to give me a list of everything that's currently being set up. If I click suggest compare criteria, it's going to say, look, oh, here's all the criteria that is currently in the program, but might be what the client wants, suggested criteria. So this is a place where I can kind of see what the client may have been doing based on their clicking, but I just got off the phone with them and I know exactly what they want. So this is more useful when you don't know exactly what the client wants, or maybe the client hasn't responded to you in a while and you just want to check to see if they're clicking on anything new. So you can see, just as an example, the list price that's currently in the search, $95,000 to $373,000. The suggestion is $115,000 to $373,000. So based on their recent views, the price went up a little bit, okay? So that is the suggest compare. We'll talk about that here in a minute. We've got mapping criteria. If we click on it, it'll show us where all the properties are that are currently available. It says there's currently 16 available. All right. Let's see here. So if I wanted to use this map search, there's these mapping functionalities right here. Let's say I wanted to say, you know what, they only want the ones on the east side of town. So I'm going to draw a square around the east side of town, and it says, oh, now there's only 4. So you can use the mapping to kind of narrow down your search if you chose to do so. All right. Calculate properties is just that. You click on it, it's going to tell you how many properties match the search you just did. View properties, send email. So if this was the first time, or you just made a revision to the criteria, you would go in here and you'd say view properties, send email, and you would pick and choose. There's 17. You can actually select all of them by clicking this button, Or you can go down and pick and choose the ones you want to keep. I don't want to send that one. I don't want to send that one, and you uncheck. So I'm down to 14, and now I can send it off. So once I send that email, those 14 properties, tomorrow it's not going to send any of those again. It's only going to send the new ones that hit the market. Okay. So that's the idea. When you first set up a search, you've done it. Now, this current search has been set up for a while, so it's just sending the new ones that match the criteria. As soon as I change anything, it's going to want me to send the first one. So every day it will send based on the new criteria. You've got a save criteria button and you've got a revert criteria button. Revert criteria means it goes to the last one that was saved, or I could hit clear criteria and start with a blank slate. All right. So all that stuff is up here to be available. So now that I've cleared everything, you know what? I want to see what the system tells me. I'm going to go to suggest compare. And notice how nothing is currently set, but here's the suggestions. I can say select all. You know what? I don't care about the area. Let's get rid of those. MLS area, zip code. I don't care about the levels. They do want condos. They do want 1974. They do not want short sales. And they do not want contingency deals. And I don't care too much about square footage. So as long as it's 2 bed, 2 bath, this price range, this is what I want to see. So now the blank slate, if I check these boxes, I select use selected check criteria, hit OK. And now all that new criteria is in here. If I hit calculate properties again, now I'm up to 106 options. So again, just by making those small changes, I can do that. But now let's say, you know what, I just got off the phone and the client told me they wanted only to 200 to 250,000. So I'm going to change the price, 200 to 250,000. And they said they wanted they want basically 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, right? So let's see what comes up if I do that. 3 beds, 2 baths, and I'm gonna hit calculate properties. And there's only 2. So now I've got a search that I can view properties, send email, find the 2 3-bed, 2-bath properties that they're looking for. And going forward, they'll only get new things that they want. All right. So that is kind of a quick overview of all the features. Now let's look at some of the ways that we can do things. Let's start with a blank slate. And let's say I just got off, I'm going to hit clear criteria. Now I've got nothing filled in. So let's say I just got off the phone with the client. The client says, you know what? I need to be maximum of 300,000. I need at least, I want to buy a single family or a condo. I want to buy a condo and I want it to be 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and I need it to be at least 1,500 square feet or 1,400 square feet. So I'm going to put a minimum of 1,400 square feet. So I've got that basic criteria from the client, and I'm going to hit calculate properties, and there's 47. So that's the basic stuff that the client told me, and I get 47 results. One of the things I could do is I could go into mapping criteria and I could see where all those were. And I know the client mentioned they wanted to be on the northeast side of town near Fishers. So maybe what I do is I draw a shape, start in Fishers and just go out a little bit. Okay, that's probably good. And I hit close mapping, save changes, close mapping. And now I'm down to 11 properties, which that makes sense. So 300,000 condo, 2 bed, 2 bath, 1,400 in that area that I drew the map. Now I can view the properties, select them all, and send them out to the client once I save the criteria. I'm not going to save it now because I haven't spoken to this client. Okay, so those are some of the features you can do to make your search. And you can also draw 2 shapes. Like I could draw a square here and I could draw a circle over here, and it's going to collect everything that's in both of my shapes. All right. So that's one of the things that the maps can do for you to find different areas of town. You can even go in real tight and find specific communities. Maybe you want to draw around, just this block right here, and then you would have that to figure things out. All right. So clear selected shape, close mapping. Okay, so those are the things, some of the tools that you have. Oh, I meant to clear all, save changes. Okay. So these are some of the things you can do with these searches to get better close to what your client's looking for. Now, you'll notice just some of the basic stuff here. List price, you have to enter the minimum and maximum, and you can't enter commas. You can't like assume that it's briefly, just enter numbers, no commas. Notice how it even gives you a little hint. Do not use $ or commas, use full price, and so on and so forth. So anything that has a blank, those are things you can enter. When you see a green plus symbol, these are things you can't enter. You have to select from the list. So you click on the green plus symbol, and it gives you a list of all, in this case, the property subtypes. All right. Notice also that you have equals any if you have a drop down for equals none. So right now, I am telling the search, I only want condos, and it gives me 11 properties. If I said, you know what, I want everything but condos, I'm going to say equals no condos, show me everything else. Now there's 458, right? So that's what the equals any equals none is for. It's basically, by default, it's going to say, show me any condos that are available, but maybe I just want to eliminate condos, so I go equals none. All right. And that's how that works. You're going to have some that are yes, no, does not matter. And then the rest of them, you've got, again, contains. You know, when it says contains, you can pick contains or does not contain. Maybe you want everything except a certain MLS area. You'd put does not contain, right? Same thing, same type of thing. Those are your choices when you're going through. Anything with a plus symbol has options to select, and then anything blank you would put in there. 2 baths, 1984 and up. And like whenever you leave something blank, this means 1984 minimum, but I don't care if it's all the way to today, or anything prior to 2005. I do that. So things like that are what you would do to make your searches better. Okay. Any questions about any of this stuff that I've shared with you? All right. So once you have set up your search, you can also modify the email that the client gets. So right now it says homes for Cindy from Krista, right? Maybe I want to say condos for Cindy from, or for Cindy from, me, whatever my name is, and you would change it right here. So notice also that it says send to primary email. And if there's a second person in the co-email spot, you have to check that box, and then both client and the primary and the co would get the email. By default, it sets up these searches for 5 years. By default, it sets things for only show properties with photos. And then frequency is daily, weekly, bi-weekly, or real time. Real time is only used for those clients that want to see something immediately, and they're going to get bombarded with emails if their search is broad. If it's a real tight search where maybe only one property comes on the market every month, this might be something you would do. But most of the time, you're just going to send out daily updates. Every night, our system updates the whole database once, and it'll send new properties every day to the client at a certain time in the morning. Okay. Once you decide you don't want to send anything else to the client, that's what the pause button is for. Sometimes the clients will unsubscribe and stop that themselves. See, I got a little question down here. Let's see what somebody says. Sometimes the level feature messes it up. What is that? Okay. Someone asked a question about levels. That's different markets have different things. So the levels I don't know why it's a default feature in the Las Vegas market, but it's basically saying levels, 2 levels, and it won't send any single story. So you want to probably turn that off on most searches once you find out what the client wants. So that answers your question, hopefully. We can talk.
Or it doesn't work?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I'd have to double check it. All right. All right. So those are all the basics for the gateway program. And notice you can actually create a second campaign by clicking create new campaigns. There's really no way to delete a campaign. So once it's there, it's going to be there. The only thing you can do is turn it off by using that pause feature. and turning it off. Okay. So that's really kind of the features that I wanted to go over today. Does anybody